Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this four-part series on 15 obstacles and solutions to your best BCP. During this series, I'll share 15 frequently identified obstacles, many of which I'm sure will be familiar to most of you, and specific strategies to overcome them. We'll start today with the beginning of the planning process, getting buy-in. And with each part in the series, we'll work our way through the process, ending with the plan maintenance phase. Like many of you, we attend trade shows among other professional development opportunities each year and do our best to learn from the great speakers and vendors in attendance to try to stay on top of the latest trends. One thing we have recognized over the years is that there are a lot of knowledgeable and experienced people that attend these shows, but they never make their way to the front of the room to share what's in their heads with the rest of the attendees. Now, this is not the fault of the shows. With so many great speakers, there's only so much time that can be set aside to network. And if you're like me, a little on the introverted side, networking may not be your forte. I've often thought there may be a person on one side of a room that just solved the problem that someone sitting on the other side of the room is currently facing. And yet, it's not always easy to make a connection between these two individuals. This led us at Kingsbridge to develop an interactive workshop that we've now facilitated in various forms across Canada and the US. We've had hundreds of people working in business continuity across countless sectors participate in these workshops with the same premise driving each of the sessions. Tell us about the biggest hurdles you've faced in your BCP work, and then we work together, pulling from all of the BCP expertise and experience in the room to figure out how to get past them. Over the course of this series, we'll be sharing with you what we learned from these workshops. So here we are at the start of the BCP process, trying to get buy-in. Someone at your organization, and it may be you, has identified that you need a business continuity plan. It could be an audit requirement from a regulator, a service level agreement in a contract with an important client, or just that nagging feeling keeping up at night that if something happens, your company is woefully unprepared to recover. However, to get a BCP process off the ground, you typically need buy-in from senior management and those that will participate in the process. But what you often get is pushback, like, we don't have any budget for that. I'm sure that probably sounds familiar to some of you. So how do you overcome this no budget situation? Sometimes it takes a champion in just the right spot in your organization chart to get things off the ground. Now, if this champion happens to be your president and CEO, well, you won't likely have much trouble getting buy-in. But what if it isn't? There's usually at least one person at a senior management or executive level that also feels strongly about BCP, so you just need to find them. It may even be your boss or your boss's boss. Dig around in the risk and compliance areas of your organization. Also try sales, as they may need a BCP to meet a service level agreement. We've also been approached by IT departments who are confident that they have their disaster recovery ducks in a row, but are concerned that the business isn't prepared. It could be someone who is responsible for communications and is worried about managing the company image, or someone in charge of operations who sees where there are vulnerabilities in their processes. Do your best to sniff out who this person is. If you're lucky, might be more than one person. They can then become the advocate for you at the senior management level to see if they can carve out a little bit of budget for you. Next in our list of obstacles is the management team that has their heads firmly stuck in the sand. Perhaps you've found your champion and they present the case for business continuity to the rest of the management team, but they respond with, yeah, that's a nice idea, but I think we'd be fine. And besides, we don't have a problem with, insert your threat of choice here. So where do you go from here? What seems to have worked for those that do have their business continuity programs humming along? Well, we'll be back with that solution after a brief message from our sponsor, KingsBridgeBCP. Welcome back. We were just about to get into how to clear the obstacle of a management team that has their heads thoroughly stuck in the sand. The approach to this is getting them unstuck, and we do this by never wasting a good crisis. With the number of natural disasters that occur, it's pretty easy to find stories of businesses that have been caught unprepared and paid dearly for their lack of preparation, as well as those that did have plans and came out the other end relatively unscathed. While it might feel like ambulance chasing at the time, it's these moments that you want to share with your champion that you've found and how your organization could be next. Natural disasters aside, there are also plenty of incidents that have nothing to do with nature that can be leveraged in the same manner. The Center for International and Strategic Studies has been tracking significant cyber incidents since 2006. They focus on government agencies, defense, and high-tech companies, or economic crimes with losses more than $1 million. In the month of October 2020 alone, there were 25 separate incidents recorded by the center. That's almost one a day, and these are just the significant attacks. When these incidents come up in the news, these are the times to strike while the iron is hot and work with your champion to raise the question of whether you have both disaster recovery and business continuity plans that can handle such incidents. Of course, even better than these national news-making crises are the everyday smaller incidents that happen under your own roof. Here's one real-life example from one of our clients. A janitor left a tap running on a Friday night in a sink, but this sink happened to have a rag in it. Eventually, the rag plugged the drain and water began flooding the sink and surrounding area. Now, luckily, an employee just happened to come in late that night to pick up something they had forgotten and noticed water running down the hallway. What was quickly resolved could have been catastrophic for this biotech company that had millions of dollars in lab equipment and active research on the go just one floor below. When something happens, you have to ask yourself and ask your champion, what if it had been worse? What if that power outage had gone an extra day? What if that snowstorm had brought more snow or had impacted a wider area or had lasted a little longer? What if that tornado or hurricane had not just missed us? What if that vendor had been delayed one more day or week in delivering that widget? The third obstacle with getting buy-in is that it's just not a priority. There are simply more important things to address. In this case, we need to try to make it a priority. Leveraging near misses is one thing, but you can also often get management's attention by pointing out things like service level agreements, audit requirements, or customers demanding to see business continuity plans. Whenever you can show in writing that having or not having a business continuity plan can impact winning or losing a deal, result in fines, audit findings, a tarnished reputation, or an inability to operate altogether, that will often grab someone's attention. Money talks, and things that impact the bottom line will speak volumes. The last obstacle in the getting buy-in category is we simply don't have a resource to support this process. The teams are maxed out. No one has the cycles to focus on getting this business continuity thing off the ground. This is where you may need to start small and piggyback off of other related efforts within your organization, and start making baby steps toward being prepared for a business interruption. If you have a risk management department, there may be an opportunity there to take that program just one step further and begin some business continuity activities, even if they just start with some risk mitigation efforts. If you run drills on your emergency response procedures, such as evacuation or shelter in place, see if you can leverage those opportunities to get participants thinking. Ask some questions that point to next steps, such as how are we going to communicate with everyone after we've had a significant fire and they've all been sent home for the rest of the day? How do they know whether to come back to the office in the morning? Or what will we do if we can't come back to the office next morning? These small steps can add little kernels of business continuity planning and get the organization starting to think about recovery. So this finishes up part 1 of our 4-part series on 15 obstacles and solutions to your best BCP. In our next part, we'll take a look at how to overcome the obstacles faced in actually writing your plan. We'll see you right back here for part 2.